Your audio will be muted throughout the session. You do have a Q&A panel that's available for you, though. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to leverage that Q&A panel. You could send questions our way. We will be able to answer those through a typed response. And then towards the end of the session, if I have an opportunity to, I will provide some live answers to your questions that are in Q&A as well. So again, we're just waiting for others to join us in today's webinar. Good to have you aboard. Thanks for joining us. We'll be getting started in about 1 to 2 more minutes here. Actually, while we're waiting to officially begin, I'm going to immediately start sending some information to all of you in the chat panel. And you don't necessarily have to click on those links right away, but these are going to be useful for you. So when you're ready to part ways with the webinar, you can certainly click on those links and access the content that I'm making available. The first one is update information pertaining to the latest version of Zoom, which is 5.0.4. I'm also going to provide to you some technical insight regarding the latest version of Zoom. And then last but not least, one more link that I'll make available, and that's going to be a much more granular list of release information by product. All right, so again, you don't have to necessarily click on those links just yet. Today's session is in fact being recorded as well, so you'll be provided with a follow-up email. That email will contain a link so that you can watch this session at any time. There's also going to be the chat panel, so anything that I said to you in chat is also available for you in that recording. So if you find, oh, I'll just wait for the recording, and then in that recording I can access those links and leverage that content, that's absolutely fine as well. All right, and we're officially going to get started at this point. So again, thanks for joining us, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to have you aboard on today's webinar, A Teacher's Guide to Educating Over Zoom. My name is Ricardo. I'm located in Oakland, California. It is a very, very hot day today. We hope that you are doing well and that you're happy and healthy out there. I'm not too far away from the San Jose corporate Zoom office. So again, very, very cool to have you aboard with me. So let's go ahead and get started. So getting started, this is what our agenda is going to cover for us today. I'm just going to walk you through some of the basics when it comes to the Zoom client. We certainly encourage you to download the latest version of the client if you haven't already. Some of you may not necessarily know what that client is, so I will certainly talk about what the client is. In a sense, there's 2 ways that you can leverage Zoom throughout the business day, right? You have the opportunity to always log into your online account where everything exists. And then the client simply takes a lot of those features and provides that to you in a desktop aspect, right? And then from that desktop, you have the ability to start or join meetings. You can do other things that we'll certainly talk about. So we're going to talk about the basics of getting that client downloaded and installed, and then walk through a few things from within that client. Then we're going to talk about your meeting settings. Before we start scheduling and hosting meetings, I want you to be comfortable with what's available for you within your online meeting settings. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll get into the logistics of scheduling classes or your office hours. And then once those logistics have taken place, right, it's showtime. It is time for you to start your upcoming sessions. You want to be very well aware of what is available to you as the host of the meeting. How do you control that session? What are your features or options available to you within those sessions? So we're going to talk about those options in great detail in the session. And then we'll wrap up as we get close to the conclusion of today's webinar with providing to you some resources. And then, as I mentioned, I'll provide some Q&A. So I'll open it up so that I have the opportunity to address any outstanding questions through the Q&A panel. Alrighty. So first things first, don't do this while we're in session. Do this post session, right? Go out to zoom.us/download. From that specific page of our website, you're going to be able to download the latest version of the Zoom client. We're currently on 5.0.4. That is the current version of the Zoom client that we would like for you to upgrade to. So At the download site, you'll be able to download that latest version along with the website, or I should say the download portion of that website. There's other downloads that we've made available for you. So simply scroll through that download page, see if anything is of interest for you, and you can certainly download a few extras for yourself. So the Zoom client is going to simply bypass you constantly needing to log in your online account from a browser, right? So it's going to be an application, what we tend to call a unified communications platform. Mouthful, right? The application is going to be an icon, like any icon on your desktop. When you click on it, you have the option to join a meeting, provided that you know the meeting ID number. So you can always join a meeting from that option, or you can simply sign in. And when you sign in, you can join meetings from the client as well. So when you sign in, you have different ways, of course, that you could sign in. You could sign in with your email address and your password, entering that information manually. You could sign in using what's called single sign-on if your organization has enabled this option for you. You can certainly sign in using a Google account or simply your Facebook account. Once you're in the client, this is what it looks like for the most part. It starts off with some icons up at top. You have the ability to start off with home. At home, we have the option to start a new meeting. When we start a new meeting, we have the option by clicking on this drop menu to choose a couple of extra options prior to starting that new meeting, right? So this option here is going to allow us to instantly start a new meeting. If I happen to be invited to a meeting and I'm ready to join that meeting, I can click on join and then go through the steps of joining a meeting from the client. I could certainly schedule a meeting as well. We're not going to showcase this for you today, but do know as you become much more versed in scheduling your meetings from your online account, you might want to find that this alternative is a little easier for you. This option does not necessarily give you every single thing that's available for you from the online account, but it certainly gives you everything that you'll need in order to get a meeting scheduled. And then naturally, you can go into your online account, edit that meeting, and start to add things that you initially would like to have. But this is just kind of a quick, schedule something nice and easy from this platform here. You also have the ability to instantly start a meeting and determine what you would like to share in advance of starting that meeting. So we have 4 simple icons from the home page. Over to the right, we would simply have an indicator, right, from a calendar perspective of my next upcoming meeting. If you happen to have several meetings throughout the day, you're going to have this listing here called View Today's Upcoming Meetings. It would show you the count. You click on that, and it's going to take you over to this meetings section of the platform and show you more information for each meeting that you are having throughout the business day. In chat, we have the ability to correspond with internal or external colleagues. So the chat feature allows me to simply send messages to anyone that is considered a contact within my organization or an external contact, right? And through that chat capability, I also have really great Zoom options. I can start a meeting from a chat session. I can start a phone call from a chat session. We can correspond in what's called a channel. So if there's channels pertaining to personal interests or business channels that you are a part of, within that chat capability, you have those options available for you so that you're seamlessly corresponding with people. And at the same time, at a very high level, right, using this platform, you have the ability to efficiently maximize Zoom throughout your time that you're utilizing our services. The phone feature is a soft phone. It is in fact an add-on into your subscription. If you're interested in this specific feature, do visit our website, go to the solutions page, and then start to dive into more context pertaining to our phone capabilities. In a nutshell, it is providing to you all the rich and robust features that your actual phone would provide to you. So you can make phone calls, you can receive phone calls. Zoom will provide to you customized phone numbers, or you can certainly port your numbers as an organization or your own number if you prefer to have that integrated within the Zoom platform. So really, really cool way to just keep that that efficient and classic way of communicating at your fingertips, right, within a one platform. As I mentioned earlier, just a couple of seconds ago, that the meetings section of the client would display to you upcoming meetings that you have throughout the day or week. And then finally, contacts, right? So this is going to be a directory of contacts that exist within the Zoom client platform. As I hover over my profile icon and I click on it, I'm going to get this drop menu to appear for me. So I can add a personal note that other people, as they hover over my name in the Zoom client, they can see that personal note. I can get access into the Zoom client settings, which we're going to go through in a couple of seconds here. I can set a status, right? So if I happen to step away or I don't want to be disturbed for whatever reason, I can certainly set statuses for the platform itself so that people are aware of my current status. I can maintain my personal profile. This is going to branch me off into my online account where I have a much more detailed aspect of my entire subscription. So I can always click on this option here. My profile takes me right into my online account. Clicking on help is going to, of course, branch me off to the support site. So I can get any sort of tutorials or articles that I want to read up on, anything that I find I want to absorb in the spirit of knowledge. That's going to take me out to the help site of our website, or help page, I should say, of our website. Checking for updates. If you find what version of the Zoom client might I be on, this is exactly what you would click on in order to find out what version of the platform or client that you are currently running. One thing that's not necessarily being displayed in here in the latest version of the client would be a link. I'm actually going to click on it on a separate window for myself because I'm forgetting, unfortunately, my terms. So give me a couple of seconds and I will share that. Well, I won't necessarily share it. Give me a couple of seconds. My apologies. I lost my prior screen here. There we go. All right. And I think I lost. Apologies, everyone. Here we go. There we go. Nope, that's not my deck that I wanted to share with you. Apologies, everyone. Give me a couple of seconds. I have lost my presentation deck, and I didn't want to do that. Apologies. I'll be right back in no time. Okay. I'm going to bring that right back for us. Okay. Now Ricardo is ready to reshare his presentation, and we're seeing that. And I'm just going to skip over to a couple of slides. I'll hold on to that term. I am using a new monitor here, and wasn't prepared for that little hiccup there. So thank you for your patience as well. I want to bring us right over here. All right, so I want to backtrack just a tinge. So this is where we were at, right? When we go into the settings of the Zoom client, you're going to have a directory on the left-hand side, right? With all of the options that you have the ability to configure for yourself, to fine-tune for yourself. So what I do recommend is, if you haven't done this already, certainly come into the settings of the Zoom client and start to configure every single thing that's available for you. In general, it's very high level. You can determine, are you using dual monitors? When you start or join a Zoom meeting, do you want to be in full screen view? Just some very simple things that you can pre-configure in advance and really tailor the Zoom experience for yourself, as well as the client, right? The platform that you're going to be using. Notice the differences when it comes to Mac as well as PC capabilities. We can change the theme of our client from a light theme to a dark theme if we prefer. In view more settings, if I were to click on any one of these links, maybe a PC or a Mac, this is going to take me out to my online account where I have much more settings to configure. So one thing that I certainly want to say, for what it's worth, is certainly set things up here in the client, but naturally you also want to have those settings configured back over in your online account. They'll replicate each other, but within your online account, you have much more features as well. Alrighty. When it comes to your video settings, you certainly want to have that configured in advance. I'm sure most of you already do, but if you're wondering, how can I, if I've never used this client, where do I get to go ahead and fine tune my video settings? I tend to do that, online. Um, well, you can certainly do that from within the client, right? So this drop down menu, the camera option, is simply going to allow you to select, right, what cameras are being detected from the client that are connected to your computer system. So you can easily just select which camera you want to be leveraging throughout your Zoom sessions. You also have the ability to mirror your video. A nice little touch when it comes to the video experience is the option to touch up your appearance. So we've simply applied a nice, very simple and subtle filter, so that when you're broadcasting video, you're being broadcasted in the best capability visually, right? Aesthetically to your audience. So when it comes to the video settings, I won't necessarily spend a ton of time in here, but really just go through all of these settings as much as possible and fine tune and pre-configure what are your personal preferences. When it comes to audio, same thing. You want to make sure that your speaker and your microphone configuration is set to go. That way, when you start or join your Zoom sessions, that audio aspect of the meeting is as flawless as it could possibly be, right? When it comes to sharing, you also can pre-configure. When I share content, what are those options for me? So again, just go through these options here. I'm going to cover virtual background for us, right? And show you or talk about what is this feature in case it's new to you or you would like a little bit more extra information about this really cool option that we provide. So what is virtual background, right? Well, number one, it enhances the video experience. And what I mean by that is, if you are looking at me right now on video, you're seeing this really cool virtual background. And it's all it really is a high resolution image that I've found online. And it's based on personal interest, right? I'm into many, many different things, and those personal interests then start to translate into images, right? So from time to time, I will go online, I'll look for images. I tend to look for high resolution images, and I just download them into a folder on my desktop called virtual backgrounds. And then live, or I should say within the client itself, I can actually, speaking of live, I can change my virtual background as I speak. So choosing a virtual background, very simple to do. We do provide you 3 out of the box, if you will, right, images to kind of give you a sample of what that virtual background will do. You need to have a high processor. You need to have a CPU processor on your system. I believe it's an i5 processor or higher. For those technical details, definitely go into our support site and just simply type up virtual background as a keyword, and those system requirements will come back for you. Or just try it out, right? If you come in a virtual background, you're going to immediately see yourself on video. And then as you choose one of these images, if it comes out really nice and clear, that means that you have a processor that is capable of providing or supporting our virtual background feature. If it does not, then you'll see that you're kind of washed into the image. You're kind of blended with the image, right? That means that you certainly want to get yourself a green screen. So in that case, you would go out online, maybe get yourself a green screen, and then simply check this box. And then you would literally have a screen behind you that is green. And then when you leverage one of these high resolution images or any of your personalized images, that virtual background would be, for the most part, much like mine, right? Just nice and clean behind me. You're really not seeing anything through my virtual background, which is my kitchen door, right? So that's that's the beauty of a virtual background, is it simply kind of complements that video experience while you're broadcasting yourself. Okay, I'm going to keep this moving in the spirit of time here, and we're going to get into the details of scheduling classes and office hours. But remember, before we get into that, we certainly want to be versed in our meeting settings. That's very important for us to make sure that we are taking care of these things in advance. Now, if you don't do those in advance, or maybe you've already pre-configured your settings, right? there's always an opportunity for you to either disable a feature as you find in your Zoom sessions. I like this feature, but I don't really use it, or I've never used this feature and now I'm ready to use it. That's where you would go into your settings and enable a feature, and then during the scheduling process, that feature is there for you to incorporate into your meetings. So first things first, we have to log into our online account, right? So we have to open up a browser, go to zoom.us. We're going to log in. From logging in, we're going to click on my account. And then from my account, which I'm not necessarily showcasing in the spirit of time, is this profile section first. I would say if you haven't spent any time in your profile, certainly do so. The profile is going to allow you to upload a default image for yourself, so that if you do not want to broadcast yourself on video throughout some of the days that you are not feeling it, right? Let's be honest, not a problem. Then what will happen is your Zoom video feature will substitute a live broadcast for your default headshot or image that you have back over in your profile. In your profile, you also have the ability to customize your personal meeting ID. So you can do a few things from your personal profile and kind of make that Zoom account fully yours, right? You're customizing your personal profile. Then what you want to do is spend some time in the meeting settings. In meeting settings, we have 3 simple tabs, and then within each tab we have options, right? So we have in this scenario here, we have meeting, we have recording, and telephone. We're not going to cover telephone. Telephone would be for any person that is using third-party teleconferencing. So that's where you would customize your telephone settings or audio settings as well. All right. In meeting, it starts off with schedule meeting. From this one page here, we have the ability to enable or disable video for both participants and the host. Whatever I enable or disable here will simply carry over into the scheduling process. So if I say I don't want video, I don't want video for participants as well, I'm going to turn this off. Then when I schedule my meeting, there is no feature for enabling this. So think about your meeting settings kind of being that root level, right? Where you're going to enable or disable features for your upcoming sessions. When it comes to audio type, you're simply staying here. I want to, when I'm scheduling my meetings, to have the telephone and computer audio as my choice of audio when I'm scheduling my meetings. Or you could select exclusive telephone and or computer audio, right? Do you want people to have the opportunity to join you in that meeting, or I should say, join before you have joined, right? So before you officially start the meeting, join before host allows the participants to click on the join link and come on into your session. If you're going to be using this feature, I would recommend that you also use the waiting room. And I believe by default in the current version, latest version of Zoom 5.0.4, the waiting room is enabled by default. All right. And the waiting room is available for everyone. So waiting room we'll talk about in a short while here. We're going to keep it moving. And as we scroll down through the meeting settings, we get into the basic area. And in basic, we're not necessarily going to cover everything here. In this scenario here, chat will be enabled for the scheduling process. Private chat will also be available for people to leverage. This means that your participants would have the ability to privately chat with each other. Now, depending on the type of courses that you provide to your audience, you might find this feature is something that I do not want to have enabled in my session. So by any means, right, you can just disable this right here. And then that means that live within your sessions, people are not able to privately chat with each other. But of course, you still have the ability to allow participants to send messages to the entire audience, depending on the type of class, again, that you're providing. And you as the host always have the ability to send messages privately to participants. Couple of subtle details here. Auto saving chat. I personally like this feature. This means it's just one less click that I have to perform while live in a session or as I conclude my Zoom meeting. Auto saving chat simply means that it's going to save everything that took place in the chat panel and save it locally onto my computer as a text file. And it's a great way for me to revisit that chat and find maybe I didn't answer a set of questions that were coming my way, or somebody brings up a great point and I want to turn that into a discussion in our learning management system, right? So auto saving chat is a really cool way to just simply follow up and see if there's anything that you might have missed or something that you can leverage from the chat panel that wasn't able to be discussed or incorporated live within the session, right? Playing a sound when participants join or leave, pretty self-explanatory here. As people join or leave your session, you're going to hear a chime. In this scenario here, only the host is going to be hearing that chime, and this is something that I personally tend to use. I don't necessarily need attendees hearing every single time someone joins or leaves the session. But again, right? To each their own, and that's the beauty of these features is that I, as a host of my own account, I can configure the way I like to have my sessions ran. Now, granted, I am not the admin of my Zoom account, right? We have several admins internally that can enable or disable features for the entire account. So, but I am certainly the host of mine, so I still get to tailor things to my personal liking. Let's keep it moving here. So one thing, again, just kind of recapping, in your online account, certainly go into the in-meeting basics section. You, depending on the type of account you have, if it's a free or paid for account, some of these settings, you might have even more settings, right? And if you are part of an organization where you do have an internal admin or admins that basically administer your Zoom account for the organization, some features could be disabled for you to basically work with, right? They could be set in stone, if you will. All right. And inside of in-meeting advanced, breakout rooms. I'm sure a lot of you are interested in this feature. One very subtle detail that I like to point out is it's an advanced feature. This feature is available for all subscribers. So whether you're a free subscriber or paid for, you get this on the house. One of my personal favorites within a Zoom meeting is certainly leveraging the breakout room feature. This allows me to split my participants into rooms. I could send them off into virtual rooms. We're all still part of the same Zoom meeting, but they go off into what's called a breakout room. And I can assign people, I can have as many as 50 rooms in one session. I personally have never used that many. I've only ever used about 5 to 10 rooms. And then depending on the size of my audience, I will send about 5 or 6 people to a room and then another set of 5 into another room. And in those rooms, those participants have their own audio. So they immediately disconnect from the main session seamlessly, join the breakout rooms audio, and then they're able to collaborate. They can work on content together. They have sharing capabilities. They have the whiteboard capability. They basically have their own mini Zoom meeting going on. And that allows them to, again, collaborate, have some discussions, whatever those scenarios are where I need my participants to go off into a separate room and work together, collaborate together, and then ultimately come back into the main, and we can open it up for discussion and discovery, right? So breakout rooms are really cool. I'll make sure that my colleague Josh is sending some content anytime throughout the session in chat pertaining to breakout rooms. If for whatever reason, as he's answering questions, if that doesn't come your way, rest assured, just go out to our support site, use that search engine. I'll show you how to do that in a little while if you haven't done that already. Just type up breakout rooms. One thing that I recommend to everyone who's interested in this feature is spend some time reading the articles on breakout rooms. Spend some time setting up test sessions of your own, right? Mock sessions where you're only going to have a couple of people in there. They're not real sessions, and start them. And then test out the breakout rooms. Because it's an advanced feature, you certainly want to invest in how they work and how you are able to manage them. And then when you find you're really comfortable with using them, then you're ready to start using them live within your sessions. Alrighty. With virtual background, so you can see here inside of the advanced section of the meeting settings. Again, I won't go over every single thing, but obviously you can enable or disable these features at your choice. So certainly spend some time here in the advanced section. And if, again, depending on the type of account you have, this page can have much more settings that you can go through. When it comes to recording, we provide to you 2 methods of recording. You could record locally onto your computer. So that feature or option is available for all subscribers, whereas local recording is for paid for subscribers, right? So local recording means Ricardo would record his Zoom meeting and the file is being saved to his computer system. That recording is being recorded directly to his computer system as an MP4 file. It's a fairly large file in its size, so you would most likely never be able to email it after the session has concluded, right? If you're familiar with large based files, megabyte based files, the best thing for you to do is get that file uploaded to some sort of an online directory like YouTube or a G drive, somewhere where a box, right? Somewhere where you can simply upload it and have it stored, and then you provide that link so that others can go and grab that file, download it locally onto their computer, and play it. I used to upload recorded files to a YouTube channel and then simply provide the link of the video on YouTube to my audience. That allowed them to never have to worry about downloading the file and trying to play it back locally onto their computer. Not to mention, I didn't want them to technically own that file, right? So if I have some sort of a medium like YouTube, that allows me to simply have it stored up there, but they're never able to download it based on YouTube settings that I can configure. That's one way, right? I used to be an instructor as well, so I used to upload my files once in a while to an LMS, and then in the LMS, my students were able to play that file within that LMS and never download the files. So there's ways that you can certainly make localized files available, but rest assured, you're never going to be able to download them. Reason being is the files are just way too large to go through an email application. Cloud recording bypasses all of those logistics. Cloud recording will record the session into your online account. And there's a nice little directory over here on the left called recordings where those files will exist, right? And then from there, you can provide a link of that recording to your audience and they play it back online. So it's basically doing everything that I used to do prior to joining Zoom and getting my files uploaded to a YouTube channel. I don't have to worry about that anymore. My recordings are being recorded to my online account. So it's a nice touch. One thing that I simply recommend going to be using the cloud recording is certainly spend some time, first of all, going through the settings, right? And then two, I would certainly recommend that you record like a 10-minute test session. You don't even have to be talking. I do recommend that you talk those so that you can hear yourself and see, actually hear the quality of your audio and make sure that it sounds good, right? But if you record a 10-minute session to the cloud, if you have that option to do so, and then come into the recordings directory here, you'll be able to go to the next level. And that means, I can see that there's a copy shareable link that I can just click on and produce an email and then send it over to a alternate email address of mine and see what that email looks like, right? That's how you're kind of really versing yourself with the life cycle, if you will, of host and participant. I always recommend that you want to be versed in kind of both realms, both positions, so that you really understand when a participant reaches out to you and tells you something about your content. I can't play that file back. Let me take a look at it. You kind of know how to operate or troubleshoot your own account, right, and manage your own materials, and instead of kind of just being stuck in the water there. So that's just a personal recommendation. It does take some time, but like anything else, as you become much more versed in any platform that you tend to use, you're empowering yourself with knowledge and the ability to support yourself, right? So that's my recommendation when it comes to recording. All right, so let's backtrack just a tinge. All right, so when I'm ready to schedule a meeting, you're probably already familiar with this, right? We go into the meetings section right here, and then we have the ability to schedule a meeting. Normally, there's a blue button up at top, but it's not being displayed in this screenshot. There's also a schedule meeting before you land into the schedule process as well. Over here, we can click on schedule meeting. It gives me the scheduler, right? I come up with a meeting topic. I come up with a description for the meeting. When is that meeting going to be held? How long is it going to be? The time zone for that meeting. Is the meeting recurring? And if so, I get recurring options to select from and tailor that recurrence. Is it repeating daily? And if so, is it repeating every day, every 2 days, every 3 days? Is it a weekly meeting, right? And then how many times does it repeat? once a week, and so on. So I get to set up that cadence of the meeting recurring, and then my end date. When does this series of a meeting actually come to a conclusion, or does it need to conclude after so many occurrences, right? Do I want that meeting listed in the public event list? So these are all options for you to select from, and by all means, what I always recommend, right, is just schedule up a various amount of different types of meetings, and see how they look inside of your scheduled directory, right? And start a few of them. They don't have to be real sessions, and start them and then record them, right? And just kind of go through that entire cycle of a Zoom session. As we scroll down through the scheduling page, we can determine, do we want registration to be required? This is a great way to ensure the appropriate people are going to be joining your Zoom sessions. When you set up registration and make it required, you can determine, do I want my attendees to register once and then they can attend any of the occurrences after that, provided that it's a recurring meeting? Do I want attendees to register for each occurrence in order to attend the series? Or do I want attendees to register once and then they can choose one or more occurrences to attend? Whether you have reoccurring meetings or not, these radio buttons still apply. Okay. When it comes to password, we certainly recommend that you configure a password. This is an extra form of security to ensure, again, only those who are supposed to be in the meeting are attending that meeting and getting into the session. Password feature can be numerical as well as alphanumeric. And then we're just simply going and breezing through the rest of the features here, right? Because we in the settings have enabled video, if you find in this session we're not going to be using video, which of course here at Zoom we might be a little biased, but that's the backbone of a Zoom experience. That is what has made Zoom Zoom, is the wonderful capability of being on video, and then the video features in and of itself as to what we provide in video, high definition video, along with audio, right? These two pieces are both important for every single meeting or Zoom session that you're going to be a part of, participant or host. Okay. When it comes to audio, we're simply in this scenario selecting telephone as well as computer audio. And then a couple of meeting options here. I'm going to be allowing the participants to join 5 minutes before I officially start the meeting. This means without me clicking that start button from the client or from within my online account, people can click on the join link from their invitation or the calendar as they've added it to their calendar up to 5 minutes early, right? And then they can come on into the meeting. However, because I'm enabled the waiting room, and I believe in the current version of Zoom, the waiting room is already enabled by default. People are now being led to the waiting room. It's like a virtual lobby. And it's a great way to ensure that as you officially join the meeting, or maybe you've joined or started your meeting early and you're getting things ready for your session, that people are actually being caught first in the waiting room, right? And then you're going to see that in your participant panel, and you can see, I don't recognize Ricardo. He's not part of my class. I know he's with Zoom, but he's not supposed to be in this class. So I'm going to let him know through the waiting room feature. I could send him a message and let him know, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to let you in, or something of the opposite, right? Hey, Ricardo, good to see you here. Come on in, and I'll let you in, right? So the waiting room is simply a way to filter who's able to join your meeting and who's not able to come on in. You can certainly check this box here. Only authenticated users can join. This means people within your organization would be the only people that can join. They must have a Zoom profile, a Zoom account, right, in order to come into your session. If that's not applicable for you, by all means, just leave it unchecked, right? If you want to pre-assign people to breakouts, right? So personally, I recommend this, but if you don't do this, or if you find I'm not ready for that one just yet, I'd prefer to learn how to actually manually or automatically create the breakout rooms live in the session. I say be versed with all of them, right? This feature here, as I click on this link here called Create Rooms, allows me to create the breakout rooms during the scheduling process. So what this would do for me is I simply click on this plus sign. the breakout room names are called breakout room 1, breakout room 2, as I keep clicking on this plus sign. And then I can add students to the rooms in advance, provided that I know their email addresses, right? So all I do is I enter their email addresses into the rooms, and then they're pre-assigned, they're ready to go. So that live in the session, when I'm ready to say, okay, it is now group collaboration time, you're going to go off in your breakout rooms and collaborate. You don't get to see who you're going to be with until you join that room, because naturally a lot of students are anxious, who's going to be in my breakout room. Personally, I used to change it up, right? So no groups were the same. I wanted every student to learn how to collaborate with a fellow student that they may not have necessarily collaborated with in the past. So I always kept it moving. Um, anyway, coming into this breakout room assignment, very simple to do. For those technical people in my session here today, you can certainly download a template that we provide to you and then import the list in advance. So instead of creating it manually, you can download a CSV template that we provide. And the template is real simple. It is just breakout room 1. And then underneath that, breakout room number 2. And then to the right is a column for the email addresses. You enter the email addresses of the students, and then you import that in here, and then it's done, right? Voila. Real simple to do. So be versed with this if this is something that you're interested in using. And then I'll show you a little later how to do that manually live within the session. All right. Before we officially save a pre-scheduled meeting, a couple of things that I want to point out to you. Naturally, you can delete this meeting. So if this chat just happens to be, I'm just practicing scheduling, no problem, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And then as you go through that scheduling process, cool. I think I get this. Then you can delete it, or you can edit the meeting. If you find I really set up a real meeting that I intend to use in a week or two, you can save that meeting as a template. I personally use this myself, and obviously what it does is it saves me time from the scheduling process. So my template would be available for me in my meetings section with a tab called templates. I click on it, I would have a list of templates. I select that template, and everything is pre-baked, ready to go. And I simply fine tune a few things that I find I'm not going to be using that, or I will be using this in this meeting. So templates are simply saving you time. In this example here, registration has been enabled, or part of the session. It's been scheduled, right? So right now in this scenario, no people have registered for the session just yet. So it's showing 0. You can click on view and it would show you a list of the people who have registered. If you have it set to automatically approved, then what's happening is Ricardo registers for your class or your session, and then I automatically am approved. All they have to do is register. All they have to do is go through the fields that you've made available to me on the registration form, may they be required or not. I simply go through that form, and as soon as I submit, I get a quick email back. Thanks for registering. Here's your join information. So think about and if you find I really want to have a little bit more control over that registration experience, then you can click on edit, right? And then in edit, this is going to allow you to change it from automatically approve to manually approve. And then you can actually see, I see that 20 people have registered for my class, but I don't recognize 2 of them. I don't know who they are. You can take that email address and email them and kind of take that offline, right? And make contact with them if you need to. But if you find I don't know who that is, I'm not going to approve it. You can reject the registration, right? But that's what manually approving registration will do for you. If you prefer to get an email every single time someone registers, you can do that too. So clicking on this box allows you to get an email every single time someone registers. If this is not checked, you'll of course have to come into your account and see throughout the business day who's registered, and I need to approve those people, right? Because they won't get the email confirmation to join your meeting with all the details until you've approved it. And then in questions, right, you could determine which demographic questions that Zoom provides for that registration form do I want to make required, right? So we offer out-of-the-box registration questions: first name, last name, address, company information, all that good stuff in case you want to capture that. And then you could certainly come up with customized registration questions as well. So both of these options here allow you to enable fields to be required, right? So that when Ricardo registers, you must give me this piece of information on the registration form. So this is a scheduled meeting. I have, because in the type of account for polling, for those of you who might be interested in the poll feature, this is also available for paid for only subscribers. Um, so with poll, you would see that available for you, provided that you have enabled it back over in your settings. And then in poll, you're simply going to click on add, and then you're going to create the poll in advance. You don't create the poll live within the session, right? So when you click on add, you're going to come up with a title for the poll. You're going to determine when people respond to the poll, do I want that to be anonymous as they are responding to it? So that's entirely up to you, of course. You're going to type the question, right? So question number one, what features are you most interested in learning about today? That would be the question. And then do you want to have just one choice for them to select from? Or do you want your participants to select more than one? So if I had entered in here for answer number one, it's going to be breakout rooms. Answer number two will be polling, scheduling, what else? Video, right? Recording, all kinds of things that I might be interested in. I would simply provide you with the answers here. And if I want to ask another question within that same poll, so maybe like 3 questions if you want, or 10 questions in a poll, you just keep repeating. So add a question, type up the question here, provide the potential responses that they can select from, and then rinse and repeat. And then you save that poll. And then when that poll is now part of the entire scheduled meeting, now it's ready for you to leverage within your sessions at any time. All right. So I'm going to take a quick look at Q&A here just to see if there's anything immediately outstanding before I keep it moving. Thanks. I got a response. Happens all the time. You've got this. I appreciate that. You're the best. Wasn't expecting that little hiccup, so I appreciate that. Let's see. I have purchased the Education AI Pro so I can co-host and have 500 participants. This program, okay, sorry about that. I'll keep that to myself. Polls, yes, we're going to cover polls. So thank you for your interest in polls. I'll certainly get a little more granular in a short while here. So stick around. With required, do you get a printout? Yeah, so actually there's a report you can actually, so let's rewind. I think you're talking about registration. I'm going to rewind real quick here. So inside of registration, when you want to see who's registered, you simply click on view. If you want more granular information about registration, then over on your left-hand side of your menu bar, so I'm going to backtrack just a little, right over here, inside of meetings, actually what's not being shown here is reports. But there's usually a reports section here, and if it's not here, it could be in the meetings directory. But there's an option to run a report on the registration, right? Who has registered for my session? So you can run a report that way as well. All right. I want to keep us moving just for the sake of time. I don't want to impose on your time because I can easily do that as I get granular from time to time in these sessions. So here we have a fully blown, baked, right, scheduled meeting. We see the meeting topic. We have options to add them to any one of these integrated calendars. I personally use Google Calendar, so I'd click on this and simply add it to my Google Calendar. And the same thing would be available when someone registers. Let's just say registration is not part of your class, and you are inviting people to join you in a session, right, as you send off that invitation. They have these same options as well. So you get to enable these in your settings as well. This meeting does, in fact, have a password. There's the meeting ID. This is the link for registration. So a common question is, now that I have registration in place, how do people register? So you're going to be providing this link here. You can copy the invitation, and a lot of people will take that invitation and drop it into an email application and tailor that email, right? Instead of it just being kind of an autonomous email or messaging that Zoom will produce, they like to tailor it. So they will add some content in there. They might even bold out certain steps for the registration process. Whatever you want to do, so that and then you can either email your audience, or if you happen to use an LMS of any form, right? Take this link, post it up on the LMS, and provide instructions in what you're asking for for registration. So it's really when you're the host and you have this account as a licensed account holder, whether you're paying for it or not, right? You want to think about these logistics. It's not just about let me schedule a meeting and up and running. And it's like you really want to have a full blown life cycle and maximize these things to your benefit, right? You will kind of incorporate some of these tactics, if you will, into how you operate and leverage Zoom to your advantage. All right. So when it comes to video, we're just basically seeing, okay, this is what I ordered, if you will. This is what I scheduled for my meeting. Remember that you can save your meeting as a template when you're ready to fire up that meeting. A couple ways that we can do that, right? We can log into our online account and start that meeting from here. I'm sure you've been doing that since you've become a Zoom subscriber. You can have the client on your desktop and log into your client. I stay logged in my client all day long, and then start the meeting from there. If for whatever reason you want to start your meeting from your phone, you can do that too, right? So I personally rarely, and I think I can't recall if I've ever hosted a meeting on a phone. And the reason being that's just a personal best practice of mine that I try not to have meetings from my phone. I feel limited in what I can do from my phone. That's just me, right? Okay, so meeting starts. Meeting is up and running, and you've probably experienced this before, right? Like, okay, I'm in a Zoom meeting. What do I do now? Right? What is what? You have like this sense of where is mission control. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna tear it apart for you, so you hopefully have a little bit more confidence, and you probably already have some, but maybe I can add a little bit more for you. All right. Okay. So let's break down what we're seeing here in this screen here. So first things first is we're seeing Kit. Kit is in what's called speaker view. Speaker view and gallery view. So there's gallery view. I can change it right over there. Every single participant, including the host, has the option to change their personal view of the Zoom meeting. This means just because Ricardo is speaking doesn't mean that I want to have him in speaker view. Maybe I want to see Ricardo, but I also want to see my fellow colleagues who are also on video. So I prefer to see this meeting in gallery view. So everyone has that option for themselves, right? In this scenario, this is speaker view with Bob, a conference room with colleagues in that conference room, and Karamo. They're all on video. So if I wanted to see more people, I change it to gallery view, and I get to see all of them as a tiled view, right? A gallery versus speaker view. Down at the bottom, I have controls for my audio as well as my video. So if I click on mute, that's going to, of course, mute my audio. If I click on this caret icon, it's going to allow me to get access to all the audio options. So I can swap my microphone, whatever microphone is available to me from my computer system, or if it's connected via a cable connection on my computer, that is always going to be displayed for me here. So if I want to switch it up for whatever reason, I can do that. Same thing with speaker. If I need to test my speaker and microphone, then I can do that as well. If I click on audio settings, this is going to take me into the Zoom client and help me fine tune any sort of audio settings if need be. And this is available for participants as well, right? So everyone has the ability to tailor their audio. Same thing with video. If I'm certainly incorporating video into my session, and for whatever reason I need to change my background. Oops, I'm using a background that I don't like to use during class. I can easily swap it out by clicking the caret icon and then choose a virtual background. If I'm allowing my participants based on the settings within my online account to do this as well, they can swap their background as well, depending on the type of session again that I'm providing. Down here on the bottom, I want to kind of plant a seed for you, if you don't mind me saying, is all of these icons that we're seeing down here on the bottom, okay, in a Zoom meeting. When you are sharing something with your audience, like right now I'm sharing my presentation, right? So I don't technically have this view. These icons are now in what's called a floating icon tray. You've probably seen this if you have been a presenter or you've been a participant, right, in a session, and the tray, that these icons become a tray on the top of your screen. So rest assured that everything is there for you. Everything is there for you to control and manage your meeting It just takes a little bit of practice. The tray will disappear, so don't panic if you don't see it. It disappears for the sake of visual real estate, right, or space, if you will, right? So if I'm not doing anything from that tray, it will slowly disappear for me so that I'm getting that my full view of what I am seeing with you. So I just wanted to point that out. All right. So we have, let's keep it moving here. So of course, when I'm ready to conclude my meeting, I click on end meeting, and then I get one more prompt, end meeting for all. I click on that, and the meeting is now concluded. Right. Whereas if you're a participant, this would say leave meeting. All righty. So let's keep it moving. One thing that I immediately want to state is, let's go back one, right, is recording. So in recording, if you don't have automatically record enabled in your account, and this is something that you can certainly select in your settings, not to worry, right? I personally like to manually click on record when I am ready, when it's showtime. Okay, now let's start recording. I click on record, and then I get my recording options, my control options, right? Just know it's nothing complicated. I have two buttons to select from. I can pause recording so that if there's something specific that I don't want to be recorded during that time of the session, click pause, and then make sure that you unpause or resume so that it starts to record again. And that would still be one main file, but you never recorded something that you chose. I don't want to have that picked up during the time that I'm recording. Right. And then if you click stop, of course, that stops the entire recording. And now your file is being saved either locally onto your computer and it's going to process there, or it's going to take a couple minutes and it's processing in your online account. So that's recording. And the reason why I just kind of went right to recording and skipped some of those icons is this is usually one of the first things that people tend to do as the session officially begins is let's start recording, right? Okay, this is my gallery view that I was talking about earlier. In this simple example here, people are providing feedback or reactions by using the clapping icon or just the thumbs up. I'm sure somewhere down the road we'll provide more reactions that people can bridge, right? And then again, we have security. We have participants, chat, and we're going to talk about all of these. There's my polling. So when I'm ready in my session to open up a poll, I'm going to click on this icon and launch a poll. We're going to go through some screenshots here. So what's available for us in security? The ability for me to lock my meeting. I can turn on the waiting room if I didn't use that during the scheduling process. No problem. I can enable it or disable it. I can allow participants to or not to share screen. The ability to chat, the ability to rename themselves or annotate on shared content with me. If for whatever reason I need to remove someone from my session, I can remove a participant. And if I need to report that participant because they technically bombed my session, right? Then you can report them to Zoom. Now, I hope that you never have to experience a Zoom bomb. And the reason being is we have now provided all the tools that you need to avoid that completely. Registration, a password, the waiting room. I think the waiting room is probably the last bouncer, if you will, to ensure that only those who I recognize are coming in, and whoever I don't recognize, you're hanging out outside. You're never coming into my Zoom session with all the lights going on and all that good stuff, right? So that's available for me in security. This is what the waiting room would look like. So on the left-hand side is what students or attendees or participants are going to see. Please wait, the meeting host will let you in soon. So let's just say hypothetically, you start your meeting 5-10 minutes early. You're opening up applications. You're getting things organized so that they're ready to be used in your Zoom session, right? And then you have your early birds. They're going to start coming in and they're going to want to click on the link and get into class as well. But before they officially land in the Zoom session, they're hanging out in the waiting room. And then you get a notification. 2 people have entered the waiting room for the meeting. You're going to click on that link or button, see waiting room, and then the waiting room is being displayed to you. So it's just part of your participant panel. It's just a separator, right? So 4 waiting, 2 in meeting. Technically 3 are waiting. So we have Remy, Henry, and Sarah. These people are in the waiting room. I can immediately message them. Hey, everyone, thanks for joining early. I'll be right with you. I'm just getting a few things organized. Or if I find, great, my early birds are here, cool, admit them in. I don't recognize Henry. I don't know who that is. Wrong class, but no problem. I can either remove him or message him or if I really want to be tough, I could just let him hang out in there. Um, and we could see that Vincent is in the room, right? He's in the session officially. All right, these are feedback capabilities. So the ability for participants to respond to something that you're posing to them through an open-ended question, right? Tell me yes or no. Did you watch that tutorial last night that I sent to you? Give me a yes or no. They click on these buttons here, and to the right of their names, these icons will appear. If you find that you're going too slow or too fast, right, they can provide that feedback to you. And then you can also clear that feedback and kind of remove it all and then rinse and repeat and recycle those. So this is a great subtle way to gauge interactivity within your session. Have your participants interact and participate with you versus just it feeling one way. All right. I do want to point out that the unmute all capability is not available at this time. It was completely removed from the current version of Zoom, and that's based on privacy and security details, right? Going forward, we want to ensure that on the participant experience, that they also have a sense of security, that they also have a sense of privacy. I don't want to just unmute everyone if everyone is not ready to be unmuted. Maybe there's some background noise. Maybe there's some private conversations that are taking place, right? So what happens is I have to manually unmute one person at a time, and they are going to get a confirmation on their side to allow me to unmute them. So if they find I'm not ready to be unmuted, or no, I don't feel comfortable being unmuted for whatever reason, they can actually decline that I unmute them. So these are just a subtle update to the muting capability. I think it's a great enhancement. A lot of people find I don't like it, and I get it, but at the same time, I'm looking at it from outside of the box, really. And it's about providing a sense of privacy as well for the participants too, right? So I just wanted to point that out. All right, let's keep it moving because we're running a little short on time. If I click on more, I get more control capabilities. These same options are also available in the security button or section right here, right? So if I click on security, I get these same options as well. What's not being displayed here is the reporting capability. Alrighty. Chat, fairly self-explanatory. I click on the chat panel. As the host, as I mentioned earlier, I get to send messages to all of my attendees. I can send a message exclusively to an attendee, so a private message, and then I can control in the button here. What do I want my participants to do when it comes to chat? Do I want them to be able to chat with everyone, no one, only me, or everyone publicly as well as privately? So these are options that you can enable or disable anytime throughout the session. There is a file feature right here that a lot of people tend to overlook, and I want to encourage you to think about it and leverage it if you ever find you have a need for it. This file button allows me as the host, right, to browse into my computer, find a file, double click on it, and make it available for my participants to download. So it's a great way if I'm going to be sending my participants over into breakout rooms and I want them to leverage a guide that I need them to adhere to. I'm going to make that file available for them, and then live in their breakout rooms, they can work from that guide. So this is a cool feature that you might find is very useful for you. Sharing screen, let me just break this down for you, right? So how do you share screen, right? So what can you share? Technically, you can almost share just about anything from your computer system, right? So first of all, I click share screen. I have the ability to share my entire desktop. I can share one application at a time. So I have to click on the application, click on share, or just double click, the application comes up for us, right? If you intend to share computer audio, like a YouTube video, I want you all to watch this really cool video before we dive into discussion, right? First, have the video up and ready to go. And then click on this option here, share a computer or share computer sound. This is going to allow the participants to hear that video that's being broadcasted from your computer into the Zoom session out to them. If this is not checked, only you are hearing that audio, right? So this is a very simple oversight that you don't want to forget about. Click on this and then play your file by double clicking on it. Your window pops up, you press play from YouTube, video plays back. right? And then also check this box, optimize for full screen video clip. It's going to give the best optimization for broadcasting a video back out to your participants. I can share virtual whiteboards. If I want to brainstorm with my students on topics or come up with ideas, there's a blank screen that would pop up for us, and then we can use annotation tools to work on that whiteboard with. All right, so the first screen in Basic is a tile of all the applications that I would have up and running. I could share content from an iPhone or an iPad, provided that it's connected via AirPlay or a cable connection. If I go into Advanced, I can share a portion of my screen. I can share computer sound only, so you're not seeing anything, but you're hearing computer sound, or content from a second camera. And then last but not least, I can share files from an online directory. Okay. So those are my sharing options. And let's talk about annotation tools very quickly. So remember, I talked about this tray because in this screenshot, the person is sharing a site. So the tray is available for them. And then two, if you want to annotate on a whiteboard or on anything that you're sharing, you click on the pencil icon, annotate, and then this annotation toolbar pops up. And then from here, you can select text, or you can use drawing tools. You can use stamps. All of these have very, I should say, when you click on text, you can determine the type of text, the color of your text, right? All of these have sub options as you click on them. So this is one main option. You click on format, you get a color menu. Change up the colors of your annotations. You can clear the annotations. If you want to save what took place, you can save the annotations that took place on this page. It basically takes a screenshot for you. Alrighty. So those are your annotation tools. When you click on more, right, more is going to give you the menu with all the controls. So not only do you have control in the tray, but you also have everything else tucked away for you in more. So it's just one nice floating icon tray. All right. Breakout rooms. We're going to cover breakout rooms very quickly, polling, and then we'll get close to wrapping up here. All right. In this scenario here, breakout rooms are being created manually. I personally prefer the automatically create. This means I click on breakout rooms. This window pops up. This is the first window. And then I'm going to say, give me 5 rooms. So I just up the count, choose automatically. This means the breakout room panel is going to take all my participants and just randomly assign them to a breakout room. That's nice and easy for me, right? And it changes it up. It keeps it nice and simple for me versus me manually having to do that. So if I click create breakout rooms, let's play out this scenario, manually creating them, then I get breakout room 1. If I need to add another room, I click add a room, and then I have to add the attendees or participants to the rooms by clicking on their names, clicking on assign, and then they're now placed in that room. The reason why I prefer automatic is, as you can see, it will do it for me in one click. It just does it, right? If I need to move someone around for whatever reason, I can take Vincent and move him to a different room if I need to. One thing that I want to mention is if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. There's some great videos that are produced, and there's definitely a video, a recent video on breakout rooms and how you would assign them and what you can do in breakout rooms and all that good stuff. So if you want a little bit more context, certainly visit our YouTube channel, and there's a really good set of videos there for you that you can spend. They're less than 5 minutes, right? Let's play out this scenario though. I don't want to digress. Okay, so Eleanor, Elise, and Vincent are in breakout room number 1. I can rename the rooms if I need to, right? So again, just very manual. Click on rename. I would rename breakout room number 1. I click on breakout room number 2, rename, and so on. I could delete a room and then start a new room from scratch and just recreate them. When I'm ready to open up the rooms, I would click on this. Before I do that, I want to click on options. Options is really where I'm going to fine tune the breakout rooms, and then I open them up. All right. First off, I want to make sure that all my participants are going to be led into the breakout rooms instead of having to click on a join button. Because if they don't click on that join button, they're hanging out in the main room, and I'm like, why are you not in the breakout room collaborating with your fellow students? Oh, I didn't see my join button, right? So this will bypass all of that. Clicking on this checkbox, as soon as I click on open rooms, bye-bye. They go into the breakout rooms and they're rocking and rolling in there. Allow participants to return to the main session at any time. I used to uncheck this. I want you to stay in that room. I want you to collaborate with your fellow colleagues. If you need me, there's a request for help button in that breakout room. It sends me a message on my screen. Ricardo needs help in breakout room number 2. Do you want to join? I click join. I go to that room. What's going on? What can I do for you? Right? So I'm always managing my session. At the same time, I'm also empowering my audience with the features that are available for me. It's about vocalizing and understanding how these things work, and then kind of reinforcing what you want your audience or need them to do or adhere to. Breakout rooms close automatically after, and you can set up a time. I want you to go off and collaborate for 30, 40 minutes. And then when that time is up, I'm going to get a countdown. I'm going to be notified that time is up. Do you want to allow the students to come back in, or do you want them to stay there? And if I need them to stay there, I can also broadcast a message. Stay in your breakout rooms. I'm going to come into each room and visit you, and I want you to show me your progress on your project, something along those lines, right? If you want the rooms to close, then they can easily close out and they come back to you in the main. Countdown after closing breakout room. I used to set mine up for 10 seconds. So students are in the breakout room, they're working and collaborating. They have a countdown at 10 seconds. They're going to see it, and it's going to count down 10 all the way down to 1 and 0, and then they're immediately brought back into the main. So it's seamless. It's really cool. Again, I mentioned to practice with the breakout room so that you really find what works for you. What do you like? What you don't like? And then incorporate them live into your session, right? There's my ability to broadcast the message. And then I just type out my message and then broadcast it. And everyone sees that message in their breakout rooms. It pops up in the middle of their screen. Okay? And that's it. When I'm ready to close the rooms, I click close all rooms. Everyone comes back to me in the main. And then if I need to recreate the rooms, right, one subtle detail, if I find, oh, that was a cool session, in next class, we're going to do this thing again, you can keep your session up and running if you have that capability. Or, you can have mini breakout rooms, meaning let's go off and break out for 15 minutes, come back, discuss, recreate those rooms, and go back to the rooms again. So they're still available for you. I just want to mention breakout rooms is simply a panel. That's all it is. It's a panel with all these features, and you can recycle them as much as you want while in the same session, okay? All right, polling, last but not least, we have our polling. So remember the button polling here, I click on it. It has to be pre-scheduled. It has to be pre-configured in the scheduling process, and this is a sample of polling. So if I need to edit for whatever reason, I can click on edit anything that I need to edit in the poll, and then ultimately launch the poll. And then you get to see that in your screen, right? I'm going to actually launch a poll if you don't mind, just so that those of you who are interested can check this out. So let me see. I'm going to do a pop quiz. And there you go. Okay. So go ahead and respond to that poll. All right. So I simply clicked on my polling icon. I have several polls that are part of this meeting or this webinar. So I have a drop-down menu at the top of my screen for me, and I get to select which poll. So you want to remember the titles of your poll, right? Get creative with those title names so that if you're going to be leveraging several polls within your session, you know which one you want to select from. When you select it, you get the ability to edit it. So I got this kind of quick little preview, and then whenever I'm ready, I click on Launch Poll, and you get to participate. On my side, I'm seeing the results in real time. I could see that the majority is saying yes to the question, are breakout rooms and waiting room features included in the basic free license? Oh, you tell me. All right. And then when I'm ready to, I can click End Poll. So this button goes from Launch Poll to End Poll. And then on my side, the poll, I now have two buttons. One on the left, which you're not seeing, of course, says Share Results. I'm going to do that. And then you get to see the results as I see them. So all of you are saying yes. Breakout rooms and waiting room features are included in the basic free license. The answer is yes. Good job. All right. And if you weren't sure, that's okay. All right. So that's cool, right? I get to share the results with you if I want to. And then the last button that I'm seeing on my side is a stop sharing button. I stop sharing the poll results. And if I want to relaunch it again, I can certainly do that. or access another drop menu and go and launch another poll. All right. So that's my polling feature. That is what it can do for you. So a couple things before we officially wrap up here. Impact yourself by utilizing the resources Zoom has produced for everyone. What do I mean by that? Well, I want you to be going out to our support site, leverage it for all it's worth, right? We have produced this content for you. I use it to this day, right? If there's something I forgot about that technical detail or I need a refresher, I come out here and I'll just run a quick search. If you're interested in polling for meetings or webinars, if you're wondering what's the difference, you'll find out, right? But just type up a keyword: polling, breakout rooms, scheduling, calendar capabilities, what have you. There's a wonderful search engine here for you, and all those articles that have been produced are linked, so they'll come back for you in the results. Or let me go back. Or you can simply, browse by topics, right? Popular topics. You can have at it here. We have 1-minute video introductions. I also mentioned our YouTube channel. If you need some training, right, please take advantage of the training. If you can't take a live training is always recording their sessions. So you can watch a recorded session as well if you prefer, or if you have to based on time constraints. So it's all there for you. All righty. I'm going to make some links available for you. So all these links that we're seeing on this slide deck here, I'm going to make available for you in chat. So give me a couple of seconds and I'll make those available for you. And if you need to get going, I certainly want to thank you now, right? So thank you so much for joining me in today's webinar. I really appreciate you sticking aboard with me. I hope you were able to gain a much more enhanced version, if you will, of certain topics or pieces that you were in need of. And if you weren't, please take some training, right? Or go out to our support site for that much more technical, granular piece of information that you might be in need of. You can certainly open up a support case as well if you are in need of technical support. I've made a link available for you: Comprehensive Guide to Educating Through Zoom. Great article. Oh, one more thing. Please, if you haven't done this already, don't be shy. Subscribe to our blog. I love reading our blog articles. I have those sent to a separate email address, and late at night, I'm reading some of those articles. They're just really cool, right? At the end of the day, it's about that much more knowledge, that much more information, things that I'm personally discovering every day, just from one of our Zoom articles, right? And there's other organizations that are contributing to those articles as well. So really cool things that are available for you out over at the blog. So please subscribe. Best practices is the next link that I'll provide to you for securing your virtual classroom. I think you get that already, but I'm going to hone on that just a little bit more through that link. I'm going to send a quick link for you for how-to videos. All righty. And then last but not least, the final 2 links are coming your way in chat. And remember, we're recording today's session. So if you don't want to click on the links right now through the chat panel, that's okay. They will be available for you in the recording. Okay. I want to take a quick look at Q&A. So give me a couple of seconds and just see if there's anything outstanding that I might be able to answer. So let me take a quick look here. Okay, so in polls, it only gave me 5 seconds. Yeah, probably because I stopped the poll, right? So I can always have that countdown adjusted, but great detail. I also kind of prematurely closed the poll just for the sake of time. Let's see. Yeah, so question received on the deck itself. I don't believe that we're making the deck available for download. It is proprietary content, but the deck was produced on Google Slides. Let's see. Can you tell me more about limitations of Chromebooks with the whiteboard and breakout room features? Yeah, so those features are unfortunately not available on Chromebooks. There's a compatibility issue that I'm sure, and I hope somewhere down the road we're able to resolve. Do the students get to see the whiteboard and can't annotate, or they don't see it at all? Great question. I do believe that these students would see the whiteboard. They just are unable to annotate. And let's see, do students by default just stay in the main room when the group breaks into breakout rooms? Great question. So again, when it comes to breakout rooms, if you're not checking that box that says automatically join participants to breakout rooms, if you're not checking that box, when you open up the rooms, they're going to get a prompt on their window, right, in their Zoom meeting. And it's going to say, you have been assigned to breakout room number 1. Click join to join your room. And then they click the join button and they go to that breakout room. So that's how they would join. If you're not checking that box, right? So when you're creating the breakout rooms manually, you can check that box to bypass that button. And as soon as you open up the rooms, they're gone. They just immediately go into the breakout room. So it's a seamless transition, which I personally prefer and like. How do I set up recurring meetings and classes with the same link but different passwords each week? Good question. So first of all, you'd have to set up a recurring meeting, right? And then I believe that the meeting password, you would have to adjust it after the last session has concluded. The only detail about that, though, is then you would have to update the invitation. So you would be prompted, would you like, because you're editing a meeting, right? So technically the answer is yes. If you're asking, can I schedule a 4 series session and it's recurring, right? I want the same URL, but every week I want a different password. What you would have to do is edit the meeting after the first session has concluded. You would edit the meeting with a new password, and then you would resend an update to the attendees. So technically you can do that. And the meeting ID would remain the same. The only thing that changes is the password. Okay. And just try that out, right? Give that a shot. Set up a sample test meeting as a recurrence, say 2 or 3 occurrences, and invite an alternate email address that you have as a potential attendee. And then if you're not using registration, no problem, right? And then set it up for, say, tonight. And then tomorrow, change the password and then send an update and see what's different, if at all. All right. I'm going to take one more question and I'm going to close out. All right. So thanks for joining. I saw your message that you had to get going. Do you have an equation editor for a math teacher? Unfortunately not. That's something separate that you'd probably have to look into. But unfortunately, that is a feature that I know by default is certainly not available in our platform. Okay. So with that being said, again, thank you so much for joining me in today's webinar. We do provide these every day. If you want to rejoin me in these EDU webinars, I am the presenter of these sessions. So just go back to our events page and you can register if you find you need to, or just take advantage of the recording. Just watch it over and over, and then kind of complement that recording by spending some time over at the support site, articles, Zoom blog, and YouTube channel. Okay. With that being said, thank you so much for being a valued Zoom customer. We really appreciate and value your business. Happy Zooming, stay happy and stay healthy. Take care, everyone. Good seeing you.